Well, thanks everyone for being here. If you were here for the StARS Dementia Care Innovation Grant Technical Assistance webinar, you are in the right place. This is the second webinar we're hosting. We also held one last week, and so we're thrilled that folks are here and are interested in the Dementia Care Innovation Grant. So for those of you who don't know yet, what is StARS? StARS is a 5-year cooperative agreement funded by the National Institute on Aging. We started last September, and it is a U54 mechanism grant. And the goal of StARS is to actually assist states and organizations to examine and advance the accessibility, affordability, and effectiveness of dementia care services. The goal is really to foster improved data infrastructure on dementia services. And we're going to talk more about that. But ultimately, we want to share best practices and policies across the country. So we have a huge, amazing leadership team, many folks who are on this call right now. And we also recently hosted StARS, Get to Know StARS webinar for folks who were interested. Today you are hearing from Phil Sloan and myself as part of the Research Innovation Core as we administer the innovation grants. I will note too that this is a cooperative agreement. So folks from NIH, namely Dr. Fazio and Dr. Novak, are also part of our leadership team. So Research Innovation Core team, again, as I mentioned, I lead this along with Dr. Sloan, and we also have an incredible team of folks, economists, methodologists, geriatricians, communication specialists that are part of this team. I want to call out Nora Shepard. She is our first responder to our emails and many administrative issues. So you may have seen her name before. And together we are working to make sure that folks know about our grants, how to apply, and how to do everything successfully. So what are these Dementia Care Innovation Grants? Well, basically, we are issuing grants to advance dementia care services. We want them to be innovative, and the goal is for research to shape future policies. We are providing funding of up to $100,000 per grant. And in addition to that, there will also be indirects. We are not just giving money, we are also providing support from the StARS Center experts throughout the project. And support will be in data structure, research planning, data management, and so on. There's really potential to collaborate with states and organizations to work together to enhance dementia care acceptability and effectiveness. So key dates, I will show this slide again at the end. This is the real most important part of this talk. But we are asking for letters of intent for the grants, and that's what we will go through in detail today of how to complete them. They are due May 23rd, so there's still quite some time to submit them. In organizations that are accepted will be invited to submit full proposals. We anticipate asking approximately 6 organizations to submit full proposals to us, and those proposals will be due on August 1st. So there will be time to take your LOI and make it into a full proposal. Again, in the process, we will provide support to you so that your proposal can be get the expertise needed from our team. You will be notified that you have the award on September 15th, and the project start date is October 1st, and these are 1-year projects. Next slide. So what kind of projects? Well, cannot give you an exhaustive list because that is for you to determine. And our goal here is to help you understand what counts and what are some kinds of things that you can be doing. Obviously, we are have a range of interests, all focused on coordination in dementia care. So, for example, evaluating care coordination services in existing dementia care programs would be a very exciting project for us. Assessing caregiver resource use, perhaps addressing language barriers, isolation, technology access issues, or other unmet needs for caregivers, and also work potentially looking at benefits and costs from respite care services for dementia patients. Again, these are just some examples. There are many different things that you can do for these grants. The real goal is that they are advancing work around dementia care within states. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, up to $100,000 in direct costs, plus we will provide 10% indirect costs. And it's a 1-year project timeline. So that's really important because you will be evaluated based on the feasibility of doing this project. So you may have some amazing idea, but if it really will not work for us for this grant if it cannot fit within that timeline. Again, we will also be providing support to you as you are conducting the study. There'll be monthly virtual meetings, in-person site visits, as well as feedback on project progress from StARS Center experts. This is designed not to burden you, but to actually help you achieve your goals and support you through this funding period. Okay, so eligibility open to state, county, city, tribal governments, as well as nonprofit organizations and higher education institutions. They can be collaborative applications allowed. So you can be one state, multiple states, you can have a few different partners, but you must have one lead organization designated. So if the work really lends itself to collaboration, then it can be even stronger work. So that is what we're looking for, and you are certainly allowed to ask specific eligibility questions. We have gotten a lot of questions about that so far. Priority is given to organizations involved in statewide dementia service provision and or coordination. So that's really key. We're interested in, this is a project that's about state research. So we are interested in statewide services that are happening within a state. We do also potentially could be interested in state comparisons potentially, or multiple states. Another priority is for projects that provide opportunities for data linkage and sharing. This is another goal of StARS, and this is also not meant to be terrifying and impossible or anything like that. The goal here is to make it so that we are learning and benefiting from others' research, that the information we collect can be used, can be shared, and we hope that this would allow us to have more impact. We again have a data linkage team that would help to support this work. Next slide. Okay, so I am going to now shift over to my colleague, Dr. Sloan, who's really going to go through and tell you what is expected for the LOI application.
Thank you, Catherine. We're going to go over the specifics of the letter of intent screen by screen. Our application consists of 10 sections, and so I will show you, if you've been on the website, these will look very familiar because these are the screens that you'll enter in, and we'll just talk about them, each one a little bit, to provide a little more clarity. So this is the first screen you would see. It's part one, quick overview. And here we're really asking in 150 words or less to provide a brief overview. It's your elevator pitch, how you would describe it to someone if you were riding together up to the 5th floor of a hotel and they ask you about your project. And you want to talk about the why, what, and how very succinctly. And one thing I would say about, we have put in word limits on all our sections to make it, to really ease the burden on you. And so we'll just keep moving like that. Next, please. So moving on to section 2, it asks for information about who's making the proposal. It says we should be conducted in or about dementia services and networks in one or more states. Needs to have one lead organization. Preferences the organization to be a state agency that is involved with dementia services. Doesn't have to be the state itself. It could be a nonprofit. There's a lot of organizations involved in dementia care. Having a partner is not a bad idea at all, because the more you can draw from others within a state, I think the better you can represent what's going on. So this section asks very basic questions. What's the state? What's the lead organization? Who's the project lead, the individual, and are there any partner organizations? Next, please. So now we're moving on to section 3. This asks for more detail about the lead organization, kind of specifically how it's involved in dementia services within the state or region of states or states. It allows the inclusion of a table or graphic there below, if that's helpful in describing the various dementia service resources in your state that are targeted for study. We don't expect anything comprehensive, but to the best you can represent how you fit in with dementia services. And then if you're invited to give a full proposal, we'll ask for some more detail. Next, please. So section 4 kind of begins to get at your reason for doing this in the first place. And that is to briefly explain what you will target in terms of service gaps in provision and coordination. In other words, what are the tough areas, incomplete areas, area where there's not enough knowledge that your project will seek to understand and address. 200 word limit here, and an important part of the proposal. Next, please. So once you've stated what the gap is you want to address, of course, the next thing is to talk about the goals. And here, you just want to succinctly state what you hope to accomplish if you're able to be successful. Next, please. And then, of course, once you've talked about your goals, we really want to see how you're going to accomplish that. And this is your methods. This is a longer, more detailed section because we want information about the study population, data sources, measures you plan to use, and the analytical plan. And we recognize that 1 year and $100,000, while to some people it sounds like a lot, when you're getting statewide, doing integration, doing data, you have to be careful to propose something that's doable. So please include a time frame of activities, timeline, and think critically, but also as comprehensively as you can. Next, please. So this is an area that, depending on who you are that's putting this proposal together, you may or may need a partner around or some additional expertise, because one of the goals of this center is to provide access to and promote use of data about state dementia services programs. And that's because we want new projects, other states, to be able to benefit from the experience that you're going to gather and you're going to produce. And so through these projects, we eventually will have as many as 16 funded. And through the other activities our center is doing, we hope to create data linkages and data sharing that will make it really easier for states to understand what others are doing and learn from them. And we hope to believe that by doing this, we can really provide a service to the field. Please note, we have a data core in the StARS Center that will be available to help you with this aspect of your proposal. And particularly if your letter of intent is selected to move forward to a full proposal. But even as you're developing it, if you have questions, please send them and we'll see what we can do to address them. Next, please. Obviously, the name of the game is to enhance access to care. That's because within states and across the nation, not all needy individuals and families have adequate access to services. You know that. That's why you're here, most likely. And these can be due to geography, social determinants of health, or other factors. So in Section 8, we ask applicants to identify how your project can identify and impact access to dementia care services and supports. Next, please. So Section 9 is an overview of your budget. And not in great detail. That will come with a full proposal. But we'd like to know in general how you envision spending grant funds, and, this is important, what additional or in-kind resources may be available. They're not critical, but of course they can always enhance a project such as this that's working with agencies that are already working in the field. What's most important to us at this point is to see whether there's a good match between what you're proposing to do and the resources you envision having available. We allot just 200 words, but also give an opportunity for an optional spreadsheet if you need that to be clearer. Next, please. And this is our final official section. It's on how we can help you. As we've mentioned, the StARS Center has experts in research design, data management, analysis, project evaluation, as well as expertise on dementia services and statewide service provision in general. So if your letter of intent is accepted, part of our goal will be to make our expertise available on a consultative basis to help you craft the most competitive proposal you can. We anticipate recommending for a full proposal about twice as many letters of intent as we will fund, which means that if you're going for a full proposal, you got a pretty good chance, a 50% or so chance of getting funded, and we'd like to help you make it as strong as possible. And next, please. Lastly, we provide a blank page for you on an optional basis to tell us anything else you want to say that you feel would be important for reviewers to consider when reviewing your letter of intent. So that's a brief walkthrough. We'll actually have opportunity. Questions are already coming in, and I'll turn it back to Catherine to wrap up.
Great. Thanks, Phil. So when the letters of intent will be reviewed, and we are going to consider feasibility of the project, as we mentioned, one-year projects. We want them to be successful. That's the goal. So we really want to understand that they are doable. Given the resources and the timeline, we are looking for partnerships that are meaningful and will help the project be most successful. Data availability, will you have these data? What can you use with them? And of course, the policy and practice impact. We want to make change with the work that we're doing. And again, the budget is important too, as well as the time frame. So we know it's $100,000. What can you do with that? And again, we will be giving priority to projects with data sharing potential because we believe that this will have allow us to have even greater impact than the 16 individual projects. As Phil said, selected letters of intent will be invited for full proposals. And again, we will support you with consultations from our group as you make it to that round. So how to apply? You scan this QR code. It'll take you immediately to our website, or I suspect many of you have already seen the website. And it looks just like what Phil has shown you, page by page of what you would need to submit. And the big date is May 23rd is the deadline for submission. So contact us if there's questions. That is the main StARS Center email. We try to respond to you at least within 48 hours. Sometimes you ask such brilliant questions that we have to decide on an answer. That's our only delay. Otherwise, our goal is really to get you your answers as quickly as possible. We also are providing office hours, I believe, starting next week. Phil and I will be available. You can schedule via a Zoom scheduler. You can either go to the website or scan this QR code and sign up for 15 minutes with us to kind of talk through some things. So to help you move forward and make sure that it's a good fit for what we're looking for. Again, we now have a lot of time for questions, and I do see they're already coming in the chat. I just wanted to put up this slide again because it's important. Our key dates. Again, we have technical office hours. You do have to sign up for those in advance. Please do. And again, the project start date is October 1. So that's really important in terms of thinking about it, in terms of what you are trying to do and the timeline for your state and your organizations. So with that, I see many of you have already started to put questions in the Q&A. Please continue to do so, and we can go ahead and get started. I'll share the question and answer live here with everyone. And if you think about it later and you have questions later, don't hesitate. And we will, in addition to sharing this recording of this webinar as well as the others, we will update website with Q&As that are coming up so we can best support you. So the first question, Phil, do you want to get started or shall I?
Sure, happy to do that. Is the one by the anonymous attendee from?
Yes.
Okay. It says we have a health system that approached us to partner on this, but it is only focused on a few counties. Should we encourage them not to apply? I was actually looking at this and thinking about it. To be honest, we are more interested in things that are more statewide, but I think the question to ask, first of all, is this a big enough or a comprehensive enough organization that the lessons learned would be useful to others? And if so, I would say, think about doing it. We don't know how many applications we're going to get. If we get 50 applications, well, we're going to be more, have to be more discriminating, but we don't know that. And we're happy to consult with you. But I think the question is, does it have implication for the state? And if so, does it have implications that would be useful to others in other states to know about? And then do you meet some of the other priorities around care coordination, care integration, evaluation, data sharing, this type of thing, in which case it could be quite competitive.
And just adding to that, I would say everyone who submits a proposal will get feedback on it. So if you submit your LOI, we will give you some feedback, and some of that you may take and apply next year for funding or the following year. So this is just our first year of doing this. Okay, so next question is another really good one, which is, if there isn't an ability for data linkage, would that exclude the proposal? So technically, no. We would not exclude the proposal. Your proposal will still be considered. We will be giving priority to those that can have data linkage. I would encourage you to either ask us to really think hard about how it may be possible to use to share your data in some way. We do have expertise in thinking about how that can be appropriate and legal. We're very familiar with not every, but many of the data restrictions that we have to deal with.
And I would add a couple other thoughts about that. One is that if you have data, you're halfway there to data linkage. And the only things that could make it impossible to have data linkage is either because for some reason your organization does not want to share its data, And the other would be if you don't have the expertise, in which case we can help you with that. So I would encourage you to ask again whether there really is no ability for data linkage, because we have a whole data core that's their job is to help with linkage, not necessarily your responsibility. So there may be a way. Next question, if we are a statewide group, can a for-profit tech company be a partner? The answer to that we know is yes. For-profits cannot be the primary applicants, but partners can certainly be for-profit if they provide value added.
Question about data sharing and the goal of data sharing, whether it's for research opportunities or to enhance clinical care. We are looking for research opportunities in data sharing so that we can learn from it and we can guide other states to consider different research, different data collection approaches and techniques.
Next question is easy. Brian, can you please move the slides one backwards? There we go. Thank you.
Next question. After we build the solution for our state, is there potential for follow-up funding to expand to other states? Within what we're doing here, there isn't a sequence of larger scales. These are sort of a larger scale grant awards. We are only giving out these $100,000 awards over the next 4 years. That doesn't preclude you from partnering with another state and having them work on something similar, again, with potentially sharing data as part of another grant. Certainly, if you're one of our funded proposals, our team would love to work with you and also help advise you so that you can build and do more with that. We want to see these smaller grants become successful and larger opportunities.
And I would add to that, there are plenty of other funding sources that may be appropriate if you've built a good mousetrap. There should be others that will help you expand it. Because let's face it, dementia care is a huge deal in this country. And everybody recognizes the need to reach everyone who needs services and how hard that is. So I would say if you've got a solution that works, yes, there will be potential. So next, what type of data linkage sources could be provided by the StARS team versus the state applicants? Now, this is a question that is probably most appropriate for someone from our data group. Is there anyone that can shed light on this?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Regina. I'm one of the 3 PIs of StARS, and will answer on behalf of the Data Core, which is the team I work most closely with. So the Data Core is going to be providing many different kinds of data sources. Information about data sources, not data sources themselves. So for example, we eventually hope to release a data set on things like availability of assisted living facilities for people with dementia, what kind of provider reimbursements are available for adult day services, and that would all be at the lowest geographic unit available. So we hope to provide that information to you in the coming years, and it might be available by the time these research innovation grants are proceeding to the full stage. I can tell you also that what we would love to see is linking of 2 or more data sources within a state or across multiple states. And so if there's interest in learning more about that, you can feel free to reach out to the StARS Center at umn.edu email address. Lastly, the infrastructure that is available via NIA is the data linkage program, capital linkage, and that is a virtual data platform for any entity, any study to be able to deposit data that would be linked to CMS claims data. So any kind of beneficiary level information that you would want linked to CMS data can be facilitated by NIA's linkage program, and that is available for free to state applicants for these research innovation grants.
Thanks, Regina. Next question asks whether the grants require cost sharing or funding matches. No, they do not.
Next question, can the applicant organization request a minority of the budget proposed, with partners operationalizing most of the work budgeted a greater proportion? As long as you stay within $100,000, how you spread it around just needs to match with the work that's being done and who's doing the work. It's not unusual to have that kind of a pattern, particularly with a small or a clinical organization that doesn't really have the same kind of research capabilities. So the answer is yes.
There's a question about whether this opportunity will be available as a one-time, one-year opportunity only. The way the grants work is we will be administering these 4 times. So we're doing this now. This is the first time. So you are the inaugural class of fundees, and they are 1-year grants. We will be doing this all again next year. Timing may shift a little bit, but the idea is we will be offering 16 total grants. If you apply this year and your LOI does not go to the next stage, we do not ask you to submit a full proposal. You will still get feedback on it. And that feedback, we hope, may encourage you to change something, do something different, maybe incorporate some new data that becomes available and apply again in subsequent years. So that is our hope.
Or apply somewhere else. There's usually nothing lost from a thoughtful proposal that's developed. So we encourage you to think about this. Next, will the proposals be reviewed by StARS Center only or by NIA as well? We will have a review panel both for the letters of intent and then for the grants themselves. The decisions we make need to be approved by the NIA. So we will make recommendations to them, and we will probably have some kind of dialogue with them. So it's a 2-part process over which we do the best we can to produce the best proposals and put them forward, and the NIA makes the decisions.
The next question is about who owns the intellectual property of what is developed. This is your work. This is not owned by StARS. This is something funded, though, by the NIH. So this is your work that you're developing. I don't know if there's some more specific questions you want to add into the chat about that, but this is work that technically will be NIH funded.
Now, one question that could come up from that is, if they share the data, whose data is it? And Regina, correct me if I'm misspeaking, but usually in such situations, your data cannot be accessed without you being able to be involved in some way. Is that correct?
That's right. So if you decide to share the data via the linkage program that NIA runs, the study owns the data, and the study determines at what level that data can be shared with researchers. So if you eventually deposited data linked to CMS data via NIA linkage, the study makes the requirements for what data and at what level. So for example, individual level versus county level versus city level, what cell sizes, the smallest cell size available. All of that is determined by the study, in this essence, the grantee of the Research Innovation Corps. And I think in terms of IP, all of these terms will be discussed during the award stage. And so you will have an opportunity to talk about IP ownership. And generally this is, like a grant. So I think it's basically what NIA would specify as IP ownership would flow down to the Research Innovation Grant awardees.
Thank you, Regina.
Thank
If you
you.
don't mind looking at the next one, it's probably something you could answer best as well.
sorry, the question is, can data sharing be through a publicly accessible web tool, or does this data linkage need to be within government data systems? This is a great question. I think any willingness to share data publicly, and again, the determination of how public that is up to the grantee, the Research Innovation Grant awardee. The reason to do it through NIA's linkage is if you would like to link with CMS claims data, that can allow analyses like acute hospitalization data, mortality data, avoidable hospitalization or ED visits kind of data. It can also facilitate multi-state collaborations or comparisons and allow many other researchers to help you answer questions that are not within the scope of the 100K award. So the answer is yes, it can be publicly accessible web tool, and that would be a great use of the funds. But if you would like for it to be shared with a greater audience that has CMS data linkage, that is one reason to go through NIA's linkage tool.
So we're just gonna wait for questions to come in. We've reserved this time, so for those who wanna drop off, you certainly can. We will share this posting as well as any questions, so you don't feel like you're missing anything. But please, by all means, put some more questions in the Q&A. Okay, question. Would a state-specific evaluation of a national program such as GUIDE be a good fit for this mechanism? Interesting. I think you're sort of, oh, look, Joe would like to answer it. Go right ahead.
As you can see, you're in tremendous hands with Dr. Ornstein and Dr. Sloan, so I'm loath to interrupt any of it. My sense would be, and again, as you could tell, given this is our first cohort and round, we likely will have additional conversations and guidance. But my initial take on that question is I think we would, and I would be interested personally. But then I think we as a center, I think it would be very interesting as well. One would have to understand how that relates to what CMS is asking the guide providers to do in a given state, and what is or isn't being collected as part of that effort. But at the same time, as you've heard, the goal of the StARS Center is really to harmonize and create infrastructure of data on these different types of models and programs that are out there to better understand how well they work. So with that in mind, I think it would be really intriguing to see a project of that type. But Catherine and Phil, love to hear your thoughts as always. But
Well, Joe, the one thing I was thinking is if they put the word of implementation of a national program such as GUIDE, I think that would probably fit better, because we really want to know how it comes down to the state. Does that make sense, Joe?
it does, yeah, I think so. And we would work with you and have ongoing conversations about what this would potentially look like. But again, I think, and we've had some very preliminary conversations with CMS around the guide model and how it relates to StARS and what we're doing. And our sense would be, even though CMS may not necessarily be willing to share any of the data that they're collecting as part of the guide model in service of their own efforts related to evaluation, that probably wouldn't necessarily preclude you if you decide to make those decisions to share such data as part of a StARS award. And again, we would probably have ongoing conversations as to what that would look like. As Dr. Sloan had mentioned, issues around the implementation piece, what that would look like. But nonetheless, I think that would be very intriguing and very interesting.
Any other questions? As you can see, we have a lot of people involved with StARS, really here to guide you, and we want these projects to be very successful and to support you in the process. If there are no more questions today, again, sign up for office hours, send your questions via email, and we will respond to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for joining us and participating and sharing your ideas. And we really look forward to the LOIs.